Good morning, pukers. Today is a very special day because it's not a special day, and it is in fact 2 days after an also mostly normal day, which means it was the perfect time for LYZA to drop. Like, it's not 2 days, it's 1 day. It's 1 day after. I know what time it is. It is 1 day after LYZA decided to drop like a bunch of miscellaneous lore stuff about stuffing and wetware and colors. And like, I want to talk about it. So here we are, talking about it. We're going to go through the wetware stuff first, because while it is probably more lore impactful directly, there's details about colors, which are, well, those are the things I could yap about for like a decade, because I am the girl who invented colors, and color theory. In terms of ADNA analysis, that was my big break in ADNA analysis, so like, we're saving that. We're saving the best for last. Here I have, just GIMP, GNU Image Manipulation Program open, with all of the images that LYZA posted yesterday, and we're just gonna like go through and look at them, and I'm gonna talk about things that I find interesting. So first off, we have these four, which all look to be, and by look to be I mean are pretty obviously descriptions you would find in Serene's bag, which is interesting. You can even see here. You can even see here. Yep. Okay. You can even see here. You can even see here. This part. This part is this part here could save me from indigestion or worse, is exactly what you see in Serene's current stuffing description in the bag. If I were to guess, probably we are going to get like a generic wetware section of the bag with subsections dedicated to bioaesthetics or stuffing and designer salts, which is weird because, particularly with designer salts, those seem to be attached to your body in a way that you couldn't put in the bag. But this has the bag description, like formatting. It's also possible that this formatting was just for testing purposes, and you're actually going to see this maybe in the body record or somewhere else. It's unclear. There's a lot of possible ways for that, but these do seem to be like gameplay descriptions that seem to be in the bag. Probably might show up somewhere else. But yeah, first we have wetware is synthetically organic, synth-organic technology that uses lab-grown biomatter and neuron arrays to perform desired tasks or functions. I need to probably open up ADNA to check some things. Within biological structures, such as the human body, within both Hi ADNA. Both biological structures, such as the human body, which means there are non-human biological structures that use. There are. No. There we go. That's better. Also, I should probably... No. We're muting ADNA for now, because I'm gonna have my own music added in here, and that's gonna be annoying to fiddle with. What was was I doing? Right, okay, so. Alright, yeah, okay. So we can go here, we can go bag, that's my phone. We can go bag. Oh, that doesn't look like a bag. Yeah. You can also see that this is very clearly like the same texture. Oh, we can actually directly compare. Okay, so we added in. Actually, we can do this on the note. Yeah. We can actually like look at all the parts that were added in. So synth organic wetware, prosthetic innards. That's new. That's new. Okay, yeah. All of this is new. We got rid of equally wide variety of uses because these are the wide variety of uses. And that bit is exactly the same. That's not what I was looking at. That's also the wrong button. We are going to look at Shell of the Ghost. Yes. Okay, bioaesthetics. We can actually like cross compare. Okay, so this is about specifically bioaesthetics, which is interesting. That dominant form, which means there are other hypothetical forms of technology in sanatoria. Favored over its alternatives, which I have to imagine is, yeah, I have to imagine that's like normal tech. I may not have a plan for this video, but I do have some very yummy banana bread, which, you know, counts enough. Okay, that's everything about wetware. Yeah, there is something to be interesting to be said about phones and computers having wetware, which means that, you know, power over, like, flash and power over technology are similar. Also probably means that in the adnb universe, stuff isn't coded in, like, binary or any recognizable computer science paradigm, which is interesting and scary. Okay, and then, I don't know, I don't think I have anything more to say on that. We will go shoot bioaesthetics. Cluster advanced stuffing, known for body expansion. Expansion rather than integration. I usually don't highlight things, like when I'm taking my own notes, but I don't know. I guess it's because I have a pointer here, so I want to use it. Advanced neural or organoid arrays. Yo! That's the thingy. Often uses external prosthetics, far cry from the original use. Also, interesting thing to bring up there. Makes me get where it works. So yeah, bioaesthetics interesting, primarily used for just prosthetics, but also connected to weaponry. Probably matters given that there's, you know, going to be a lot of fighting in adnb. I'm pretty sure Giga explicitly has bioaesthetics. I wouldn't be surprised if those Sterling members had at least a few. Obviously, Man of War secretly has like 5 arms or something like that. Anyways, yeah. There's also Shell of the Ghost, which has, you know, is in the game right now. People have read through it before, but probably worth reading through again in the new context. Widely known, haha. The thing is widely known. That's the line. More integrated unity beyond that of a prosthetic. Okay, so bioaesthetics aren't prosthetics. I guess it's because they're wetware and prosthetics are not wetware, if I were to guess. Yeah, yeah, okay. So they're used as prosthetics, but they have the ability to add new functionality to the human body. Yeah. As you can system brain signals used in part that. No. Apart from the line, solution. System nerve, not ideal. Prosthetic, but are not viable for the advanced features that biosthetics make use of. Integrated wetware. Prosthetics, not directly control system. Link to organic wetware computer, which is to say, a computer. Stuff and grows. Grown from the cells of their body, and it's custom designed. Grown from the cells of their body is interesting, because that means that's something they could do. Also means that, like, the biosthetic computers use computers and biosthetics use human neurons. We can guess that maybe all computers use human neurons, but it's unclear. Like, it's possible that, you know, the grand synapse is made of human meat, or that it's made of something else. I'm curious if whatever. I'm curious if, human immortality extends to things made of humans. That doesn't necessarily have, like, the same consciousness. Maybe it doesn't have. Maybe computers are somewhat conscious. That would be very scary. But we haven't seen anything to imply that really. Because they're kind of like animals. Yeah. Anyways, neuron biosthetics and organoid biosthetics. Advanced neural or organoid arrays is. That's what that's referencing. And moral soundness, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, OBPs are organoids. They're their own separate computers, whereas NBPs are more like attachments. Like adding on to your brain rather than making a new, smaller brain. Yeah, more capable, additional incoherence, like in core observer. Yeah. Organoids, not talked about, probably means that, like, someone has a large amount of organoids. Current theories say that it's either serine or man-o-war. There's, of course, the fact that, schizotism makes you plural, and that, like, it's possible schizotism is caused by having organoids. That's a theory I posited a while ago, just because it's somewhat plausible to call both man-o-war and serene as plural in some way. And there are also the two characters we know most readily have schizotism. Also, Guy's a mess. We don't know enough about her to say very much, but also there's a reading for some of her stuff that you can interpret as plurality. And then we have designer salts, saltations, surgically edited or intentionally grown from scratch. Intentionally grown from scratch is interesting. Mutilist. Aesthetic or functional. They can be functional, but, like, specifically being aesthetic is brought up as opposed to these two. Where aesthetic functionality is not discussed at all, which is interesting. It's not a very good arrow. Yeah. Which also makes sense because, like, you know, the one designer salt we see is on Suli, and that seems to be exclusively aesthetic. Yeah. Only considered semi-synth organic or entirely non-synthetic due to how they're made. The exact way this works is very interesting. I can't wait to talk to a mutilist. Because, like, salts seem to be based off of the way someone views themselves. specifically while elucidating, is the fact that, like, Mutalists can change and manipulate that, without, like, you know, giving their client cancer or, you know, making them go insane. To the extent that going insane is a coherent concept is interesting. Oh, also, real quick, I don't have much to say on this, gaggle of things, really, but I do want to note that, there are 3 different types of wetware, and also Serena had 3 doctors. We know for a fact that you get to see my awesome handwriting. Okay, yeah. Ferrere is, one of Serena's doctors, is a mutalist, which explicitly means that she messes with, saltations. I don't actually know. We don't know any of the saltations. Okay, we do know the saltations Serena explicitly is said to have in her body record. Yeah. The only saltation it says she has is spade pupils, which implies that Herrera was specifically messing with her shape. Maybe? I don't know. There's the entire thing with, where is it? Implants? Reconstructive surgery, yeah. The effects of this surgery are not visible. They're just, like, putting her back together. I guess the, like, remaking someone, is error 74. It doesn't count as, designer salts. Yeah, it's worth noting, Rere mutalist, Alania general stuffing surgeon, I'd say this is because I'm writing with a mouse, but that's not true. My handwriting is always terrible. Which implies this, like Rhonda, it says Rhonda's a plastic surgeon. Because of that, those 2 connections, I almost want to say that, I almost want to say that Rhonda is connected to biosthetics, which is strange because, you know, body expansion, weaponry isn't really something that makes sense for Rhonda to do, but, you know, she already has 2 jobs. I don't see why she can't get a 3rd side hustle, attaching illegal weapons to people for fun. That's all interesting to track. Let's see, do I have anything else I want to say on this matter? I don't think so. No, I think that's more or less what I wanted to say about wetware. Yeah, which means we can now swap over to colors. We got, like, everything you thought you knew about colors. Forget it. We're getting new color lore. Got new color lore. Everything is different now. Folly got buffed. It's 6 more blue now. It is crazy. One sec. I'm gonna. No. Okay. Interestingly, oh wait. Saltations has been replaced with wetware here. That doesn't say stuffing anymore. It's something E. I'm not too worried about that. It doesn't seem like it's gonna have, like, story importance. Mostly, like, you know, gonna matter. Yeah, it's like PE something. Physicality traits and plants. None of that seems to line up, which is fine. I don't think it matters. But yeah, this is very clearly Serena's body record. Her body record ID has not changed. We should probably make a note of her current body record ID. To see if that ever shows up anywhere. Also, her phone number. She lives in block 11, room 18. 81. That's not the same number. So 1842204. That might mean something. I wonder if those 2 are connected somehow. That's 5 digits. This is 6. I don't know. I'm not going to worry about that for now. What I am going to worry about is new color lore. Okay, so we can actually also compare this. So outdated, same version, outdated, unreleased version of Locum Pink. The part's the same. A versatile. Ooh, it's gone from synthetic to synth organic fluid. That takes the job of absent bodily fluid within the stuffing. Now it also transports glue. There is actually one other thing I wanted to know, which is that I'm a pedant, and this sentence doesn't make sense grammatically. Yeah, if I were to guess, it's saying that stuffing is made of plover and glue, and relies on a special fluid called locum pink to function, but like the way this list parses is that stuffing is largely made of plover, glue, and relies on a special fluid, locum pink to function like. This is grammatically how that list parses, which isn't correct. This is just me being a grammar nerd. And there's also, you could also parse it as largely made of plover, glue, and relies plover, glue, and relies on a special fluid. What I'm going to assume this means is it's made of plover and glue and relies on locum pink, but I don't know anything ever. Anyways, yeah. So, yeah, we got, yeah, it's an unreleased version, which is also interesting. Anyways, transports loop. Here we have wetware. We have a whole bunch of numbers and a whole bunch of colors. We've got meat, which is made of biles, and we've got plover, which is made of glues. And for the meat biles, we have black, blue, green, gray, red, white, yellow. Something interesting about this. No, we're just gonna go through first. And then we have, for glutes, we have charta, foam, folly, iceule, sure, iceule, pepto, shockle, and vermi. Sounds like a name that we've heard somewhere. Oh, it reminds me of there's not a pronunciation guide for it. Versi. I don't know. Anyways. Yeah, okay. So that's that. And so this is what we got from a screenshot. And then at the same time, or more or less the same time the screenshot got updated, the fan resources channel in Discord got a whole bunch of new colors. I believe these colors already existed in the old version, though yeah, these two got new names, and this kind of got a new name. It was called Seafoam, and now it's just normal foam. Presumably because the sea doesn't exist. But yeah, I believe this is new. Yeah, we can probably swap over to, yeah. This is new, that's folly, this is new, and this is new. Yeah, shockle used to be called electric purple. This used to be called cyan, I think. Yeah, this is also, by the way, just a separate thing I have open that I used a long time ago to track different colors. Yeah, this is the cyan for text. Is it exactly the same color? Yeah, okay. That's just cyan, which is speech. And then we have Folly, who is... Folly is Folly. We're going to talk about Folly later. Yeah, okay. So, initial interesting things. Flubber seems to be specifically for stuffing and wetware. I believe the, blurb that LYZA said while pasting these images said that Flubber is for locum pink, and there are stuffings and wetwares that use human blood, or like normal blood, as well as those that use locum pink. And so blood is meat and flubber is locum, is my understanding. It's worth noting that I believe locum pink is Pepto. The color of locum pink is Pepto. And, blood is red. Those are the same... Those are at the same position, which is interesting. I wonder if there's a, alignment between these. We'll worry about that later. Okay, no, these are in alphabetical order. That's just a coincidence. Yeah, meat and bile, flubber and glute. So yeah, meat is connected to bile, is connected to normal blood. I think that's interesting because we don't get hex codes for the biles. And the biles are also normal colors. The reason we don't get hex codes is presumably because you know what yellow is. Is this actually straight up? Yeah, that's straight up yellow. Wait, no, it's not. Oh, it's slightly less green. Is that? Okay, these are not full on, just completely. They're root colors, as in this is not. This is 240 rather than 255 for red. But they are more or less the exact colors. And I'm also willing to bet that because we don't have hex codes for these colors, they're a lot broader. Anything that is very clearly blue counts as blue for the sake of being a blue appearance, as opposed to something like seafoam, where, this is seafoam and this is Celadon Sterling seafoam. And so if it's not exactly this color, then it doesn't count as an appearance. Versus something like red, where as long as it's red, it counts as an appearance of red. Which is interesting. Yeah. Other neat thing is that these are called biles, which immediately to me brings to mind the classical humors from real life. Because in particular, we have black and yellow bile, which are just straight up normal ass humors. This is yellow bile, that one is connected to this, and then black. It's also possible that red bile is connected to blood. Sanguine. Yeah, it's possible that red is connected to blood and sanguine, and maybe white is phlegm. I can't remember, because the thing about the classical four humors is that while they are a medical, they were used in medicine. You would get leeches if you were too sanguine. They also have a entire massive body of different wider symbolic connections. Each of them is connected to the classical elements. Each of them has a certain disposition, as you can see: melancholic, sanguine, choleric, and then white bile, and then phlegm is phlegmatic, which might be white, might also be green. I don't remember, because I think they might have actual color connections. Yeah, they're all connected to the elements, and since there are a set of four things connected to the elements, they also then have connections to the Rider-Waite tarot, because each of the tarot suits in Rider-Waite is also connected to one of the elements, which brings to mind the four humors in Adna, which are connected. There are four humors in Adna. Obviously, you got hope, zeal. The four humors in Adna: hope, zeal, ego, and whim. And you also have. You also have 4 suits in Adna. We don't know what these suits mean, if they mean anything, but this is from the back of the Adna tarot cards. These might be connected to humors. If they are, this is probably hope. This is just me guessing. This might be hope. I don't know. Point is, if there is a like intentional connection, which I think there is, between like Adna humors and real life humors, because like it's also like, you know, one of the things about Adna is it tries to consistently be connected to different like medical ideas, and those medical connections, yeah, and like, you know, Western esoterica is connected to Western ideas of, like, yeah, is connected to Western medicine. Esoterica is one of the major things that medicine was based off of, is like how magic works. And so one of the core things about color theory as a lens of analysis is that it attempts to apply to every color. It attempts to apply like thematic connections and meanings, whether they be like wider emotions or themes or specific characters or ideas. It attempts to connect those two colors and say, like, you know, if someone has red in their design, it probably means that they're sanguine, or more likely it means that they are reflexive. That's always the one I forget. I know mindful, inspiring, compassionate, eccentric, logical, frugal, and altruistic, but I forget reflexive every time. Anyways, that's to say, like, you know, if there is real-world connection, if there is connections in the symbology of Adna and symbology of the real-world humors, that allows you to make, like, predictions and connections much easier than if you have to make those symbolic connections from scratch. So it's possible, and then if that's true, I think white is connected to phlegm, which means this would be phlegmatic. Perfect. Phlegmatic. Possibly. Yeah, so that's one thing, one connection, lens of analysis to keep in mind. Yeah. Keep in mind the humors. I should probably at some point read more into all of the symbology of the humors, because there's like connections to tarots and specific themes, and probably like planetary metals somewhere. A lot of depth to be read in there. And there's, you know, Adna tends so far not to be very connected to the real world, but I definitely think it's possible that the, like, wider symbology has some connections to real world wider symbology, or at least that's something to be kept in mind, even if it's not, like, one-to-one, you know, zealous sanguine. It's possible that the, like, blueprint of the Western four humors maps onto, like, specific meanings and connotations in some way, where it's like, maybe there's no one-to-one connection between real-world and Adna humors, but there is a one-to-one connection between Adna suits and Adna humors in the same way there's a connection between tarot suits and the humors in our world. So that's one thing worth noting. I also think it's possible that connection is being more hinted towards by the use of the word bile, which I usually can only think of as connected to the humors, but that might also just be because of my brain rot. Yeah, these are all much broader categories than the gloops that I already talked about. Kind of makes sense in terms of, like, ideas, in terms of, you know, this is, like, artificial, man-made, and this is, like, sort of messy or natural, if that makes sense. Woman-made. Other things, it's weird that yellow's here. Red, green, blue, red, green, blue are all normal additive primary colors. Black, gray, white makes sense because they're like colors, or they're like shades. It makes sense for those to be there as a group. But yellow is very strange because yellow is connected to CMY. Yeah, we don't see any CMY connections with yellow. It's just on its own, which makes me, it stands out to me, which makes me think there's probably a reason for yellow in particular to exist on this side and have the connotations that it has, where we don't get to see things like cyan or magenta. Oh, that's interesting. Anything else I want to say about this half of the screen on the bials? Oh, I think it's possible that they're more generic color, like more broad color meanings, where blue could mean any blue, might also be connected to gameplay impacts, because I presume that meats and plubbers, bials, and glutes matter, because my current guess is that they are like currencies you spend, or if you want to use a particular ability of a wetware, then you have to spend the bile connected to that, or the glute connected to that. If that's true, then there's probably, honestly, the gameplay identity of those different, like, wetwares, like, if green bile is mostly used for healing abilities, that is probably going to be one of, if not the strongest ways to add connotations to colors, just, like, immediately. Yeah, that's interesting. Onto the glutes. Okay, as I said, these are a lot more specific. They refer to very precise hex codes, where a differing of 6 pixels, or I don't actually think they're pixels. I don't remember how streams work. A difference of 6 in a color value can imply that these are different colors, or like, you can see the difference between Sturley Seafoam or you can see the difference between Celadon and Seafoam, but they are very similar, like, more broadly. And that's still a distinction that matters for the glutes, whereas they would both just go under green, I think, if they were biles. And also see this with Charta and Foam just being green, or, Folly's just red, Pepto, Shockle are both, Pepto's pink, and Shockle's purple. It's interesting that we do have 2 greens here. Yeah, we have, just going through the list of gloops, we have Charta, Foam, Folly, Icecule, Icecule? Icecule? I'm gonna call it Icecule, sure. Pepto, Shockle, and Vermi. Just going through, one of the other big things is, in the fan resources, we are told the meanings of some of these colors, and essentially told that the other colors have some meaning. Like, there wouldn't be a question mark here if Charta was just a color that existed. Now, notably about Charta, and here I'm going to pull up my big thing. This is my color theories. This is me just kind of taking and pasting every color that I wanted to, like, analyze in the entire game. These are the humor colors, except for I was too lazy to do Whim. It is interesting, by the way, with the biles and gloops, that they almost line up with the humors. It's pretty easy to say the Icecule red, these can be, one sec, we're going to change to a different color so that you can see more what I'm doing. Yeah, let's swap over to Vermi. Yeah, this is Vermi. And not swap over to Vermi. Yes, okay. So, yeah. We can read both red and ice rule as being connected to zeal, where red is reflexive and ice rule is mindful. They don't line up exactly with the colors, but they are very similar. You can also make a connection between yellow and shockle as... Ooh. Yellow and shockle are both connected to hope, where yellow is inspiring and shockle is compassionate. Worth noting with these two that red and yellow are the high versions of the humors. You can see, high hope is inspiring in yellow, low hope is shockle in the gloops, and the biles are high and the gloops are low in this case. And following that idea, it's pretty easy to say blue is whim, or that blue, it's pretty easy to say that blue is connected to whim. This is eccentric. I'm not gonna write eccentric, that's way too long. Yeah, we can say that blue is eccentric, and then the closest thing we have to orange is vermi as logical. Doesn't look exactly orange, but it kind of works. And, like, really it's like red and Iceul and yellow and shockle line up quite well, and it makes sense with yellow being kind of weirdly here. But then we get to ego. High ego is pink, and there is not a pink in sight under the biles. There's pepto and folly. It wouldn't be folly anyways. But, like, you know, if you invert it and you say this is frugal, this is altruistic, that kind of works, but it's weird that it's flipped here. I also don't know, given that both, you know, wetware and humors have gameplay impacts, it might be weird for only some of these to matter gameplay-wise. But in terms of extrapolating out color meanings from this massive list of colors here, it makes things quite a bit more difficult. But it's like, it would be really weird if the colors for one humor appeared, the color for the other humor did, or like, for, you know, if there were colors for zeal, if the colors for zeal were intentionally put here, but the colors for ego were not intentionally put here, that would be very weird. Which kind of boils down to me saying that either none of the humor colors are here, and that none of these are exactly what the humor colors are meant to be, or that they're all here and ego is swapped for some reason. Personally, I feel like ego being swapped is just, like, way too weird. So I'm going to assume that none of these colors are exactly what the humor colors are meant to be. Which is also interesting because it implies a lot more precision in the humors than I previously had extrapolated. It implies, for example, that, like, you know, there's a specific red you need to be looking for when analyzing character design in terms of humors. It's possible, it's confusing and a mess. That's all I really have to say there. Humors are kind of weird. Then I kind of want to move on to trying to fill in these blanks as best I can. With Charta Foam, Charta Seafoam Folly, IQ, all of these seem to have specific meanings, but we aren't told what they are. Really more so, this tells us where the colors appear and not necessarily what their meanings are. I'm also kind of assuming that all of these colors have meanings. They might just exist for, like, narrative purposes. Honestly, I feel like the fact that the color used for speech is also used and named in-game as a gloop implies that being used for speech does not preclude it from having other narrative meanings. And also, therefore, that probably the fact that it is used for speech pushes further and describes what it means narratively and thematically and symbolically. Perhaps that has something to do with communication. Notably, it does still look like mindful colors, and colors being close to each other, I think implies some degree of similarity, but like if they're not the same, they don't have the exact same meaning. Like, you know, Ice Jewel could represent like trying to calm down a situation through dialogue, which is connected to mindfulness, but connected to low zeal, but is not the same thing, if that makes sense. That's widely how I'm going to interpret that. So yeah, Ice Jewel is connected to speech and maybe like talking things out. No, we are going to use an actual thing. Yeah, here, we could just, like, go here, zoom out, and go, like, over here to kind of just yap about humors. Here's what I'll do. I'll put, change this to... black. Okay. So yeah. Maybe Ice Jewel specifically is, like, references and is connected to, like, talking things out because of its connection to, mindfulness. Charta is interesting. I can't remember if we ever see Charta in-game right now. Maybe it's on Holocene, I don't know. Where is it? If we go here, I did a while back go through all of the like colors and greens on Holocene. I just kind of color pick them to get a general idea of how they look, and I got this. Actually, we can also go and load. Gonna go over to gallery. I'm gonna try and look at them in game because the way characters look on the extras menu and how they look in game is different. Like the colors show up differently, and I'm going to assume that generally speaking, the in-game looks are the like primary intentional ones. This purple, Serene's hair looking very Shackle, is how it's meant to look, even if in the extras menu, in the actual sprites, it looks different. I'm gonna say, generally, in-game views take precedent. Yeah, it's Holocene's room. Go back. This room does have, like, a lot of purples and greens. Those greens are not Charta, but they are green still. I don't know. I'll definitely leave it. Also, hi, Holocene mention. Yo, it's Holocene, everyone's favorite character. Her gloves are a weird color. That's neat. Also, they're not gloves. It's like an entire bodysuit of her entire upper half. You can see here, it like covers her neck, but she also has her legs showing, which I'm not going to complain about. But it is weird. Her entire design has a lot of very interesting choices made. Seurpedra. Cool. I don't think anyone else has this symbol on their hat. I don't know if it means anything, though. Yeah, it kind of looks green. Maybe it's Charta. I can't tell. Yeah, I'll say Charta. I don't know if I've seen it anywhere else, but it might show up on Holocene. Hard to tell. We can also check Seurpedra. No, it's like... It's too yellow to really be Fecund Valley. Or Lebricon. I assume this is Lebricon, this is Fecund. Though it is unclear. If we go through and check, this is the wrong one. Yeah, no, I don't know if we've seen this anywhere. It's just a little bit too yellow to be anywhere, to be any of the greens, which tend to be either like, most of the greens tend to exist somewhere between green and seafoam. I don't think we've seen, yeah. I don't think we've seen Charta anywhere. I guess we can also real quick check the extras menu. Just to scan, make sure there aren't any characters I'm forgetting. No. Maybe, I don't know, it's like, they're too green to be Charta. Charta's yellow-ish. Or, I guess. Yeah, Charta's, I guess, red? Yeah, it's like, most of the greens exist somewhere like here. You can see down here. Most of the reds feel like they exist like down at like these levels of reds, and Charta's like all the way up here. Which is strange. Yeah, maybe Holocene, but also like, I think that's just because her hair is brighter. Emaladi, no. Chica, no. Kimi, no. Nilly's very white, which is interesting. That's a connection White has. And just kind of go through and look at the colors. Also, Sindine. Let's see, Sindine's very connected to Mauve, because that's what she talks in, is Mauve. Which is notably not the same thing as... Mauve is not the same thing as Folly, even a little bit, even though you might think it is, if you aren't a loser. If you aren't me and you spend way too long looking at colors. Yeah, this is kind of Sindine's color so far. But it might have a wider meaning. Interestingly, most of the time when a color, all of the other colors, or actually, no, like Mauve and Folly do show up in dialogue boxes, but they aren't references showing up in dialogue boxes here, which is interesting. Maybe because they're like, show up in relatively more secret stuff, like later game, whereas like Shockle and Pepto and stuff. Shockle and Pepto and stuff, like, are everywhere. Yeah, there's Cindy, Holocene. Holocene has a lot of greens, a lot of, like, teals. You can see here what I was talking about. Yeah, actually, there's that, like, very distinct teal also on her collar. I don't know if we see it anywhere else. That's something. Holocene has a lot of stuff going on. A lot of colors, a lot of stuff going on in her design. There's brown. Worth analyzing is her eyes kind of maybe vermy. I think that's just red. Also worth noting, pretty explicitly there are colors that don't show up on the wetware. This is not every color that matters in the game. We know this mostly because Suli says her favorite color is jade blue, or jade green. Jade blue, yeah. Her favorite color is jade blue, which I'm presuming is somewhere around here. Which is not mentioned or show up anywhere in here. It does kind of look mindful. It also kind of looks like the Secret Folly teal and blue. It's interesting. But I'm willing to bet that the colors that show up here are like the majority of the color thematic landscape. Melody, very purple, very... Yeah, purple isn't here, but Shockle is. That might mean that purple just, like, isn't... I'm willing to bet that means that this is not a comprehensive list of colors that matter. And it's not even, like, maybe not even close to comprehensive. Or maybe it's, like, the purple here is not Shockle because that means it's compassionate purple. So maybe it's, like, this plus the humors. that are the important colors. I don't know. Jika has pinks on her. I think that's Pepto. It fades into Ice Fuel. Huh. Pepto Ice Fuel. Like, thought that eventually fades into speech. That might be thematically interesting. Like, you know, thinking. But most of her is thinking, and she does, and then that, like, you know, thinking before she talks, or something. Gives interesting implications about her, like, we know she is good at manipulating people and, like, social engineering. Maybe means that, like, that's, like, a very notable trait about her, is her ability to, like, think about and manipulate people. Got this, which is a deeper pink. Maybe that's Frugal Pink, then? Whereas this is Pepto. I do think... I am now seeing a lot more advantage out of distinguishing between these and the humors, and saying that none of the humors show up here exactly, and that, you know, maybe green is connected mechanically to ego, where it's like low ego builds will end up using a lot of green, but they don't have the same thematic implications necessarily. I think that's what I'm gonna go for now. I got Kimi. Kimi has orange eyes and not much else. Very tan. Orange, logical. Maves has... I'm thinking... To me... Yeah, I think Maeve's colors are specifically bringing up a, like, this is specifically Zeal. This is Zeal Cyan rather than Iceul. I think that is a distinction that matters. And so this is something about Maeve's. God, fuck, oh no, black. I forgot that black is also a color that is mentioned here. I have no idea what black, white, and gray could possibly mean. Because, like, I mean, this is a game that takes inspiration from goth, like, fashion. Every character has, like, a bunch of black on them, and then Nilly is white. That's a nightmare. I'm not going to worry about that for now. Maybe that's another day. Yeah, it might also... Maybe this red might also connect her to Sherby. What color is Sherby again? Huh. Sherby has these things. Huh. Is it like a hoodie? Interesting. Yeah, Sherby... Maybe that's Vermi? As a color? Maybe. I don't know. I don't have a very good lockdown on Vermi as a color. Like, it's scary. Vermi scares me. As a color. I don't know what it means. I don't know what it is. Yeah, but, like, these are very clearly two distinct things. Like, when I'm looking at them together, that... Like, when I'm comparing the red in Maeve's design to the red to Sherby's, kind of gives me vibes of Sherby being Vermi connected. Yeah. Hi, Elizabeth. That's interesting. Yeah, I think that's connecting Maeve's to Zeal rather than to, like, Iceul or Red. Which, I don't know, they probably maybe are the same thing anyways. Then we have Mume, that's all Pepto. If we're assuming that, yeah, Pepto's connection to thought is also about, like, is, like, more deep. As in, like, it's the color used when Serene's thinking, but it also, like, thematically means something about a character's thought. I guess that means that Mume is, like, particularly introspective. Their eyes are, like, blue. I don't know what that means. maybe connect to eccentricity. There's another thing that's worth noting, which is that, like, right here, Folly changes colors. Like, Folly was FF004F, and now it's FF0055. It's 4 more blue. And the fact that Folly has changed color, that the color Folly has changed, probably implies that LYZA is willing to go through and change, like, significant parts of the game, because Folly shows up in quite a few places, and, like, a lot of assets. And so, from that, I'm willing to extrapolate that, like, it's possible that the humor colors are going to have changed in Disc 2, in the Disc 2 update, to line up better or worse with wetware. Like, you know, maybe, eccentric blue is going to be more clearly not normal blue to distance itself from Bile. Or maybe it will become even more clearly blue to connect it to Bile, and make that comparison much easier. It's possible. Something to keep in mind is that colors might change. We've got Nilly. Nilly very white. Her eyes are like a light green, honestly kind of seafoam. Oh, her eyes are charter. Or, are Celadon. Nilly's eyes are Celadon. That means specifically an allegiance to Sturley. Which makes sense with her cogs. Like, you know, Serene's eyes are more saturated. That's seafoam. Nilly's eyes are Celadon, Celadon, Celadon. Specifically meaning Sturley. That's interesting. That's really interesting. Ferrith, she has blues, and that's just black. I don't know much to say. Rivian. Is Rivian's hair vermy? Or is it red, or is it something else? Just a white, that might mean something. Black and white coat. This might be vermin, I can't tell. Granted, I still have no idea what vermi means, but it's interesting, nonetheless. You got Sturley, Saint Sturley, very yellow. You can also see on Stydia, there's a lot of, like, yellows and golds. Oh, that's all Celadon, isn't it? That's all Celadon. Celadon that fades to this. I think this color is very, like, Marinthian. That's the Marinthian, or at least Quaishan. Like, this is the Quaishan color, and then her eyes are more yellow than Quaishan. I don't know. But that might just be character design reasons. The eyes are usually a, like, brighter, more saturated color. Notably, this is a connection. This connects that color to, yeah, that connects this color to, like, yellow a little bit. It's, like, kind of yellow, kind of brown. Kind of maybe implies logical, as well as, you know, yellow, which is hopeful, as well as whatever this yellow means. You can also see that on Yuffie. You got Suli, got Jade Blue, Jade Blue, Jade Blue. That's indigo, I think. Interesting. I don't have anything to say for indigo, but, you know, if we can categorize every appearance of every color, then that means we can start to, like, say things about what they mean. Salt. False, are you mauve? Or red? Maybe a little bit of both. Crisis Nurse is like that specific black. We should probably keep in mind CN black as a thing. That's like, what's that? Mermaids. Yeah, this is definitely darker, more red. Not falling. Yeah, a lot more intense, darker reds. Maybe something like mauve, maybe dark red. Interesting. Very much feels like its own color more than anything else. Jay, eyes are blue. Got a lot of gold on her design, which is a Machnihu thing. Got one. I really like this design. Okay, yeah, that's like Crisis Nurse Red, I think. Yeah, that red backdrop is connected to Crisis Nurses, which is interesting, because that implies Crisis Nurses as maybe reflexive? It doesn't look like Folly. Kind of looks like Folly. Maybe a little bit, but that would be fucking... Could you imagine if Crisis Nurses were somehow connected to Folly? That would be really scary. Elenia, blue and teal. I've speculated before and still kind of speculate that this implies a connection to... I never looked at Sarah's, did I? I did not. Sarah's dressed in a lot of like navy blue. Let's think back to the packs, or rather S-Pro badge. Yeah. Packs? Is that like the same? No, similar though. Maybe that's just because they're both metal. Maybe that's like an organization thing. Like member of an organization. She does look good in uniform. Yeah, navy blue. I think that's a PAX thing. Is that like indigo? Maybe that's eccentric blue. I don't know. As I was gonna say, I think that arbors probably harbor a connection to the humors, where this blue eccentric is the scanner and this blue mindful is the computer, which connects eccentricity to observation. Let's see, yeah, she has black. She has a lot of blue and pink bandages. I think there might be some chocolate in this blue, or in that purple. I was saying blue instead of purple. Maybe? Maybe. Chocolate is a pretty distinct color. I don't think this has it. Amber, obviously very orange. Implies logical, which is strange. Very orange. Nothing new. That might be Vermi, but I don't think so. Again, there's another like gold tan thing in that crown. Interesting. I'm willing to say that's a color I kind of immediately, or, you know, I hadn't really thought of before. Probably matters. Boldera, very red. Let's compare this to the other reds. There are a lot of reds I'm noticing in this game. Red. Compare that to Ruby. Ruby is a deeper red. Yeah, this like lighter, pinker. This might be closer to Crisis Nurse. Honestly, kind of looks like Sherby. Sherby's red. Let's see. We hop over to these. It's a pretty close match. I don't think any of these are Folly, by the way. Honestly, Bolera kind of looks Folly, but a lot of that is because I'm just very restrictive at handing out Folly because it means quite a bit. So maybe something to be said about this like purple. I don't know, that's something else. Hey, wait a second! Now that's Shockle, I think. This purple is Shockle, which is interesting because it connects Shockle to Idiopathy. Used for emphasis. FMA puts a lot of importance on Serene being a non-pedantic person out of the Great Room caring about her. I almost wonder if maybe that's like the core of Shockle, is like yeah, I'm gonna try and start throwing together some actual There's no selection. Alright. Like, maybe, I don't... Oh, that actually works really well because And that also does have tangential connections to compassion, as in, like, you know, compassionate as a color, because what matters, because, you know, low hope, compassionate people kind of generally will say that, like, what matters isn't, we can strive for a better future, but, like, what matters is the here and now. We shouldn't get caught up in our idealism. We need to focus on, like, you know, what's important, making sure people are alive and well, rather than, like, you know, big, more broad, earth-shattering change. That might also just be indigo. That might be indigo. I might be stupid. We'll see. This video is not, like, very focused, I'm realizing. I'm just kind of going around rambling. That's probably fine. I don't know. I have a lot of thoughts about these colors, honestly, which is interesting. I do not remember if I spelled that right. I think it's that. Okay, and then we have Pima, this blue. Is that Isil? Honestly, kinda no. I think that's a unique blue. Might be mindful. Interesting that she's covered in Pepto, which is all about talking. Hypothetically. Or, no. Oh, right! Pepto is thought because she's, like, you know, holding off and thinking. Maybe. I like that connection. No, wrong one. It is this one. Also puts it in good contrast to reflexiveness in terms of blood is red, Pepto is hello? Blood is red, yeah, blood is red, locum is Pepto, and, you know, blood is, like, reactive, you know, reflexive, maybe. Probably slightly different to that because that's zeal, and as I said before, I don't think any of the humors show up in wetware. But, like, Pepto is, like, thought, characters thinking to themselves, and, you know, she kind of drenches, even protects herself in thought and overthinking, even, maybe. Not that her outfit has too much pink on it. Yeah, I don't know what this blue is. It's interesting, the dichotomy. Also, obviously, very transgender color palette, but that doesn't really play in directly here. Yeah, I don't know what this blue means right now. We have Rhonda. That's Shockle, or Indigo, maybe. And then we've got that deeper pink. I think that's Frugal Pink. I think that's Frugal Pink. That's like salmon, almost. Closer to Fermi? I don't know. That's a very strange color. In terms of what it is. Yeah, almost salmon. That fades into the same purple as this. Rhonda has a lot of color going on in her hair, which is interesting for a character who, like, we don't get to talk to a lot. That'll be interesting to analyze in D2, various Rhonda dialogue. Because if we can figure out more what Rhonda's deal is, we might be able to use that to reverse engineer what her colors mean. Let's see, currently, it's about, I could see that kind of connecting. Currently, a lot of her stuff is about, you know, her wife wants to move out, and living in CW is kind of crushing her. She has a job, is good friends with Serene. Serene. Yeah, we don't have a whole lot on Rhonda. But I think it's possible that those purples might mean something about her, like, having to focus on something in her life. I am kind of just doing a tarot reading, but for colors, aren't I? That's fun. I'm also having to reverse engineer the tarot itself. We have Serene, obviously. I mean, if purple, if indigo or chocolate is about things that matter, it makes sense for Serene's hair to be all about, like, you know, oh, her hair, her self matters. It's worth noting that this is definitely the type of thing where you can get confirmation bias your, like, symbolic analysis very easily. Whereas, you know, it's easy to say that purple is about things that matter because it's pretty easy to force you can force a discussion about what matters right now into most ideas, and so if I find something with purple, I can force that interpretation if I really want to. Which is something to be aware of. I'm just kind of guessing at color meanings. There's also, worth noting, she does not have a Celadon. This is explicitly Sterling color, and I'm taking that. I'm explicitly gonna just, like, loan, unlike, like, these, the other ones that have, like, explicit told uses, which I think have deeper meanings. I think this is just Sterling. I don't know if it has any thematic meaning as much as it does have, like, a connection to narrative. Like, faction-y stuff. Which is also possible. It's also possible my entire lens of analysis, of this is wrong. Where I'm trying to generally connect some of these to, like, themes and ideas rather than, like, specific nouns, basically. That might not be the right way to go about this. I have very little idea what seafoam itself is. I find it very interesting that Celadon, like, showed up as a distinction. Because that's basically LYZA telling us that there is another meaning to seafoam outside of connections to Sterling. And while Celadon might still have, you know, connections to seafoam proper, they are different. And that's also notable because, like, seafoam is on the logo. It's seafoam and folly up there. So, what does this mean? Really? It is kind of LYZA's color. But I don't know if that means something thematically, other than maybe meta connections. Also, it doesn't explain why Serene has it. It kind of explains. She is the main character. Maybe it's a connection to Ritalin, I don't know. That'd be stupid. Yeah, doesn't really explain why it's on screen, doesn't really have much implication. I don't know about that one. Then we have Yuffie. Yuffie explicitly says she's yellow. There's this, which is like a metallic yellow, which to me makes me think it has some connection to, like, an organization, just basing off of, like, Meridian. Yellow, and then also the PAX thingy. That kind of looks like the crown on Amber, doesn't it? That's interesting. The colors on that are interesting. Fucking teal, cyan, no, teal green bra. I'm sure that has very deep thematic meaning. Is that Folly? I think that might be Folly. I think that might be a two-berry. And two-berries are probably Folly connected, because why aren't they? Why not? Her eyes are maybe mauve, which is interesting. I think my voice is giving out soon. I've been yapping for a while. Oh, holy shit, 44. Maybe I just doxed myself, but it's probably fine. Yeah, her eyes are maybe mauve, which is interesting because that's Cindy's color right now. Yeah, that's actually pretty interesting. Maybe it means something. It's got leg warmers, I think. Yeah, it's interesting because that's, like, orange, which is logical, but she says she's yellow. This looks orange-ish here, but would be the yellow she's referring to, so maybe it's, like, somewhere between hope and logic. No, it's also possible that there are other orange meanings that we aren't really aware of right now. It's... currently, I feel like I'm working with like half a palette in terms of getting a fuller understanding of what colors mean what. You know, you got C in red also here, for what it's worth. You got Valley. That's not Charda. See, this is another green that, like, doesn't have any like, current coherent meaning. That's red. Is that red? I don't know what red that is. I'm tired to figure it out right now. I don't know. Is it a pumpkin? It looks like a bell pepper. Maybe a crown? I don't know. It is worth noting that her eyes are explicitly connected to honey. I don't know if that means something. Maybe there's like some hackneyed like bee working together metaphor you could work into like general yellow meanings. It is used for a lot of organization colors. Maybe. I don't know. I'm not sure. That might just be metal. If that is true, that's interesting. Yeah. Okay, yeah. There's that. Vermi, I have... Yeah, that's all for Adna. I'm gonna wrap up soon so my voice doesn't get out. Folly... The last thing I kind of want to go over is... Folly change. Yeah, I have nothing to say for Vermi. Vermi has seemed like a strange case to me. Maybe it's connected to impulsiveness or logic, but I don't know. I got nothing for that. We got Folly. It's very interesting that Folly changed. Increased. It's 4 more blue now. One of my theories is that might have something to do with. Right now, this is me inverting the colors to see if anything interesting happens. Folly getting more blue, to me, almost makes it, like, I don't know exactly why this would happen. Maybe it's because there's 2 different Follies that are 6 apart. By the way, you can see here, on this side is new Folly, on this side is old Folly. You cannot tell the difference very well. Maybe it's to connect it to other, like, pinker colors more clearly. This is not Cindy. This is not the Cindy color. I need to correct that immediately. Yeah, maybe it's connected to other, we'll talk about that later. Other pinker colors. Maybe there's 2 Follies that are 2 colors that are 6 apart. That seems unlikely. LYZA said she's pretty down to the wire with colors. But making a difference of 6 seems like it would just make it hard to work with, given we have stuff like Minorias, which like have to have a varied color palette. And so they can't be 1 block color, so the exact hex codes have to be a little bit shakeable. There has to be a little bit of wiggle room. Honestly, I'm willing to say that, like, the difference between these 2 is about as similar as 2 colors can get before they're the same. Yeah, that's interesting. One of my best guesses for why Folly is slightly more blue now is it's to make it more clearly an inverse to Seafoam. It's still not a proper inverse to Seafoam. To classical Seafoam, not Celadon. But, like, it's possible. Because, yeah, making it more blue does make its inverse closer to Seafoam. And, in fact, I believe... One sec, if we just go... yeah. As you can see, the inverse of seafoam. Here, it is more similar to this. There's still a relatively big difference, but it's interesting. Honestly, that kind of looks like honestly, Syndine's Seafoam's inverse actually kind of looks like a lot of things. That's interesting. Also, I don't know what LYZA changing it to look more like Seafoam's inverse would mean. I'm also willing to say it almost feels like cheating to like analyze this Folly changing like that, because it feels like it's like sort of looking into a mistake, where it's like, you know, the puzzle as intended, you wouldn't have the information that Folly changed. That's not part of the puzzle, and so it kind of feels like cheating to use that as a clue. That being said, I do have one shout for what Folly might mean, which is connection. The reason I think it might be connection is that Folly's major connotations so far have been with some fucked up... some text has been in Folly to reference characters, specifically characters being, like, aggressive or angry or saying something evil. It's connected to the grand synapse, which connects people through the internet, because it is the internet. It's the red menorah, the Folly menorah. In the intro cutscene, Serene says it's like for love, which is obviously connection. And then you can maybe extrapolate that, like, the Folly text represents someone, like, needing or looking for love. Let's see, the intros have frees me of all limitations, not really connected to connection. I'll never let go is in Folly, which makes sense for connection. What's the last one? It is... Oh yeah, tell me what is your secret, show me a flower, and I will dare you. It's something about showing secrets for the last intro bit that's in Folly. It's kind of connected to connection. I don't know, it's kind of tenuous. Mostly I want there to be some sort of explanation for Folly having a unified meaning. Because currently it's used for both, like, scary text and for synapses, and I don't know how those ideas connect. That being said, unless I remember something I forgot to talk about, this has been your favorite episode of Talking to Adnb, where I just ramble forever about colors. Stay whimsical, pukers, and, fuck, goddammit. Stay delusional, pukers, and stay eccentric, pukers. Also, please, play my card game.